represent a very conservative part of California. How is the gun control debate playing out in your corner of the state?
Well, they're not interested in up in my area because they're looking at it as a crime issue. Enforcement of crime, as one of your previous interviewees was talking about, they're not prosecuting crime having to do with gun background checks or keeping in prison. In California, they've even gotten rid of the enhancements. If you use a gun in a crime, they've gotten rid of that as they are trying to downgrade and let people out of prison.
I asked the question earlier to Jackie Spear, a Democratic lawmaker in your state, so I'll ask you the same question. We know that some measures like an assault weapons ban or raising the age nationally to buy certain weapons seem to just be off the table for many Republicans. So what measures do you think that both sides can agree on, if anything?
I think it comes back to sentence enhancements. Our governor, when he came in, he eliminated the death penalty for as long as he's in office. So there's really, when you see that the laws that got in place or propositions were passed, you can steal up to $949 worth of merchandise and have it be seen as a misdemeanor, which probably doesn't get prosecuted, as our county jails are full of state prisoners now. And so the whole deck is stacked against prosecution, and our jobs are good district attorneys are trying to do. So it's really, when you see rampant crime in the cities there where people can go break into jewelry stores and others, and there's little that is done, it's really overall making a problem. Now, more focused on the shootings you're talking about, and a lot of these cases, you're finding that the shooters have some kind of deep problem with drugs, whether it's some type of psychological issue that they're taking drugs for and not always getting them. We're seeing marijuana has even a common streak in there. And so, we're focusing when we're always going about the guns, and the Democrats always want to go after the guns. The guns are inanimate objects. They are not capable of crime by themselves. It takes a person with bad intent to go do the thing. It doesn't matter what color the gun is, what kind of function it has. It always comes back to what is the person doing. So this term gun violence is one that's dreamed up in order to focus on guns instead of the people violence, because it doesn't matter.
I am curious, though, because we did do a piece earlier tonight where we talked about how we're really an anomaly here. We're an outlier. Of course, there's mental illness in other countries. They have guns in other countries, but they don't have the problem that we have in the United States.
There's just one in Africa the other day. Those countries are having them all the time, where people are getting ravaged, maybe because their religion or this or that. So we're not alone in that. We actually have more ability to defend ourselves because we have the Second Amendment than in those other countries where the guns are all held by the government or by gangs or by cartels, things of that nature. So we have a better opportunity in this country. Way back when I was a kid, there was a bumper sticker. I mean, I'm sorry to resort to a bumper sticker, but it's a simple phrase: if guns are outlawed, only the outlaws will have the guns. And there's a lot of logic to that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, though, that we've heard from tonight on either side is really trying to suggest outlawing the guns. It's just responsible gun ownership.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's behind all of it. But it's it's kind of a chipping away at it a little at a time, because in California, my home state, we have a lot less options than other more free states do. And it's even interesting watching part of your previous broadcast. They're recalling a DA in San Francisco because it's gone so far over the top with crime there, and they're after the one down in Southern California, which is a San Francisco retread in Los Angeles. So people are sick of crime. I think they'd like to have the focus be on how are we going to keep the criminals in prison who've earned their way in, and make the enhancements such that it's going to deter them from doing it. That's really what it boils down to. It's like, two countries. If a country sees another one as weak, they're going to move in on them. But a country with a strong defense, they don't try it. And so you find that communities where they know there's strong gun ownership, there's not nearly as much violence against families or homes or like that. The states and the cities with the strongest gun control legislation are the ones that have the highest crime. Basically, Chicago almost every weekend has the same amount of murders as the average school shooting.
And I am just curious, because we were talking about, and I'm going to move on from this, but we're talking about in Texas, for example, very gun-friendly state. I am curious, would you be willing to increase the age that you need in order to buy an automatic rifle?
They're only semi-automatic, and when there's many rifles that have the semi-automatic function. And so you're really taking away from law-abiding people the ability to have the sporting rifle of their choice. So there is no automatic rifles that are available to anybody since 1934 without a Herculean amount of paperwork you would have to do and background on that. So that's really shooting, it's really going the wrong path on that, because an AR-15 looks a lot like a Mini 14 and others in one trigger pull means one bullet goes out. And so this assault weapon is another misnomer too, because really you can assault anybody with just about any type of weapon. They're after semi-automatic pistols, but even a revolver, you pull the trigger one time, one shot happens. So you want to go after all revolvers too? We're going to get to the point where you have one single shot everything.
All right, Congressman, we're going to run out of time, but I do want to just get to one last question for you. On Thursday, of course, for the first time, there are going to be the January 6th hearings. You were one of the 147 Republicans who voted not to certify the election of President Biden. Any regret on that?
We were doing our constitutional duty, as they did back in 2004 when they contested at least one state on George W. Bush, when Barbara Boxer from California was the senator that helped supply the the Senate support for the House to do that. We're doing our constitutional duty to look into how the elections of Arizona and Pennsylvania were conducted. And indeed, Pennsylvania sent a letter out the day before the January 6th vote on the Electoral College, as we constitutionally are supposed to do, and said, you know what, we found enough problems. We shouldn't have certified so quickly. We want you to go back and maybe take a little more time and review what happened in Pennsylvania elections. And so I don't regret anything about that, because it's been made into a political football, but it was our duty as Congress, as it's spelled right out in the Constitution, in the articles, that we're supposed to meet and convene and examine and decide what we're going to do about how the electoral votes were handled by the states.
Congressman Doug LaMalfa, we thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.